Tonight, active COVID-19 cases finally on the downward trend across South Australia, while Broken Hill holds a walk-in vaccination clinic for children.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with Ruby Kamain begins now.
Good evening. More rapid antigen test collection hubs are being launched across the Eyre Peninsula, with Port Lincoln the latest city to receive one. It comes as active case numbers across the region are trending downwards, according to health authorities.
It's the most welcome news for South Australia. The Premier confirming the number of cases in the state is on the downward trend.
But the good news is that our positive cases are down to 2,009. This is certainly the lowest we've seen for a very long period of time.
In the Spencer Gulf, while the official numbers have been fluctuating, active cases are also on the decrease. Residents on the lower Eyre Peninsula now have another location to collect free rapid antigen tests if they're a close contact. The Ravensdale Sports Complex hosting a new collection hub for Port Lincoln.
In the past 24 hours, 3,508 recoveries have been recorded against 2,009 positive cases. So we're really reducing the number of active cases.
Meanwhile, the state government is pressing ahead with a staggered reopening of schools for Term 1. However, a ballot by South Australia's Education Union to decide whether or not to take strike action over the schedule closed this afternoon.
It's unfortunate that the ballot was called on, I think, too early, and indeed we've been able to resolve a number of the issues that were raised last week by the AEU leadership.
The AEU telling the government it thinks it's too early for schools to open now, asking for RAT kits for all teachers, placing some uncertainty to whether children will return to school on time next week.
I'm optimistic that the union and indeed our teaching workforce who will have the opportunity to hear from Professor Spurrier this week.
Mark Zeta, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Meanwhile, the Far West Local Health District held a walk-in vaccination clinic on Saturday, with a number of Broken Hill parents taking their children to get a jab. The clinic labelled a success, with the number of one-dose vaccinations on the rise in New South Wales.
There were no tears in the crowd at the Broken Hill Musicians Club on Saturday. Far West Local Health District holding a walk-in vaccination clinic for children aged 5 to 11 in the club's auditorium. The clinical coordinator saying it was a success.
Did very well. We saw about 55 kids on Saturday. The process was quite effortless and ran very well. The staff did a very good job, and so did the kids and the parents.
New South Wales Health reporting 28% of children aged 5 to 11 have received one dose of the vaccine as of 8 last night. With school going back February 1st, Mrs Syke is urging parents to get their children vaccinated.
Yes, definitely. So we're looking at trying to keep the community as safe as possible.
Saying evidence shows getting children vaccinated will protect them against severe illness and the possible long-term effects of COVID-19.
It's a very safe vaccine. There's been over 10 million doses given worldwide to 5 to 11-year-olds.
If you missed out on getting your child vaccinated on Saturday, parents are encouraged to book an appointment as soon as possible, with the walk-in clinic open for children again this Saturday. Parents with any questions or concerns about getting their child vaccinated should get in touch with their GP. Joshua Mercer, 7 Spencer Golf News.
The Leader of the Opposition has travelled to Port Augusta to pledge more than $18 million to the local health system if Labor wins the state election, saying the party can make these investments into regional health by scrapping the Liberals' plans for a multi-million-dollar basketball stadium.
Regional health workers crying out for help.
Particularly with resourcing in country areas, we tend to be less resourced than metros. That tends to leave the town uncovered or, with a delayed response.
The Leader of the Opposition promising to fix these problems as part of the proposed $33.1 million investment into the state's health system if the party wins the upcoming election. A significant amount of that package would be on its way to Port Augusta and Port Pirie, with millions of dollars pledged to upgrade local hospitals.
Here in Port Augusta, we're providing an $8 million upgrade to the hospital. In Pirie, a $12 million upgrade to the hospital.
A further $3.5 million would be invested into local drug rehab centres, and $7.4 million aiming to see 30 more paramedics hired to bolster depleting numbers.
We know that the ambulance crews work just around the clock, solid work, but they just do not have the resources. We intend to address that.
Particularly in the current resource poor environment where we struggling for crews, struggling for additional staff members, any investment in health and ambulances is more than welcome.
Labor says the money is needed in regional communities now to fix reported equipment and staffing issues within the hospitals before it is too late.
One of the things that we hear in the city is about ramping. The irony is there isn't enough ambulances in the regions to ramp.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Jeff Brock, Fraser Ellis and 23 other MPs have written to the state government to reinstate Parliament for 1 week as the COVID crisis continues. The opposition wants to put a management plan in place to help businesses who are suffering economic hardship and staffing shortages.
The state under pressure. Frontline workers in the health system facing the brunt of it. Businesses losing money and shutting their doors. The member for Frome writing to the state government along with 24 other MPs to reinstate Parliament for a week so local members can help their communities. However, the push for Parliament was rejected.
Again, we've got trying times at the moment. We need to be there for the people, to be there. And as I indicated before in the Parliament, when the war was on, did the Parliament of Australia go into hiding? No.
Despite the current circumstances, the state government says Parliament has never sat in the months leading up to an election. The Deputy Premier saying in a statement, the letter is just a cheap political stunt and the government is working to the same schedule that Labor did for the previous elections. Also adding, the government's focus is keeping people and the economy healthy. Jeff Brock saying, however, members of the public are reportedly left feeling confused with the ever-changing health information, going to their local members for answers.
We need to be there for the people, and I know that it's a lot of look, I'd like to be out there campaigning for my new seat. However, I have to be there for the people and ensure that they are there to be able to be heard and have their questions answered.
Christian Comanos, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, wild flooding courses through Spencer Gulf towns, as authorities warn residents to not drive through those floodwaters. I'll see you with more shortly. Welcome back. Wild weather has lashed the Spencer Gulf this weekend, turning local streets into river rapids. The weather leaving entire towns cut off from the rest of the state, while emergency services work frantically to rebuild.
Mother Nature has well and truly unleashed her fury. Residents finding themselves submerged in an inland ocean of muddy and unknown waters. The result of almost 200 millimetres of rain in less than 24 hours.
Over on the west coast and northern parts of South Australia received that really heavy rainfall where we've seen records broken.
The water over roads causing the state's freight movements to grind to a stop and make even small journeys around the region treacherous. 2 occupants who tried their luck had to be rescued from a submerged van on Iron Knob Road.
With areas experiencing flooding already, it won't take much more rainfall to cause issues over the next few days with any more rainfall that does come.
The damage to vehicles and homes high, but for some, rain in the country is always a welcome sight.
Beautiful rain, but we want a bit more of it, and I hope it doesn't do too much damage.
I live in the Gulda Ranges, some pastoral country. We haven't seen rain like this there in over a decade.
Lots of rain everywhere. It's been very slippery.
Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Meanwhile, the state's Motorist Association is urging residents to avoid driving in those floodwaters. In Whyalla, yesterday's wild weather caused major highways to close, creating some chaos for freight trucks and tourists.
Causing widespread damage across our region's vital road network. Floods cutting off major arterials in cities across the Upper Spencer Gulf, prompting a warning from the RAA to avoid driving on damaged roads.
The dangers are quite extreme, actually. I mean, obviously, if you're driving through water One of the real problems is you often don't know how deep it is, and it's particularly a problem if you're driving on unsealed roads as well.
Over the weekend, the Transport Department reported several major corridors across Whyalla were closed due to water over the road or related damage, including the Lincoln Highway north of Cowell. The RAA's Charles Mountain saying swift torrents can dislodge roads off the tarmac.
Particularly important if you try to drive through any water where there's a current, because it can very easily dislodge the vehicle as you're crossing.
Meanwhile, council maintained roads in Whyalla were resilient during the weekend's wild weather. Flash flooding was reported in many areas, however no damage was visible on the city's local roads.
What we've seen is localised flooding at a few different problem areas that we know about. McLennan Avenue had water over it for a good few hours.
In a statement, the Transport Department says the Lincoln Highway, Iron Knob Road and the Birdseye Highway remain closed. Mark Zeta, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
A man has been fined after being caught allegedly drink driving in Risdon Park last night. Just before midnight, police pulled over a Holden sedan on Kingston Road. The 54-year-old man from Port Pirie allegedly returned a blood alcohol reading of 0.066. He was issued with an $863 fine. Port Augusta Police is seeking public information regarding a robbery on Thursday afternoon. Between 3 and 3:10 p.m. last Thursday, a woman walking through a car park behind Chapel Street was reportedly robbed. Police say the man grabbed the woman's cash bag and was last seen running onto Chapel Street in the direction of Gibson Street. The woman wasn't injured during the incident. Anyone who was within the vicinity at the time is urged to call Crime Stoppers. Stay with us after the break. The push to help struggling tourism and hospitality businesses. And a Port Lincoln business owner urges others to get their citizenship. Hello again. Member for Frome Jeff Brock is calling on the state government to hand out another round of Great State vouchers to help the tourism and hospitality industry. The suggestion getting the support from the Tourism Industry Council of South Australia.
Businesses say they're struggling. Capacity limits and the spread of COVID-19 in the state causing people to dine out and travel less. Now the member for Frome is calling for the Great State vouchers to return to give the struggling industries an economic boost.
What I'm asking the Premier to do is to actually reinstate those, because at the moment we've got these very trying times with the social distancing and also with the COVID-19, and I'm asking him to reintroduce those grants again.
Also wanting the vouchers to be exclusively for regional areas and for the amount to be raised to $100 instead of $50.
We need to protect those businesses out there, and you indicate it's not only Port Pirie, there's Port Augusta, there's other areas around Peterborough and those areas. Regional areas are suffering at the moment because people are not travelling out.
The idea getting full support from the Tourism Industry Council of South Australia.
Voucher program has been very successful and provided support for many businesses that have needed the support to generate that economic activity that's kept their doors open and kept their jobs going.
The state government is yet to respond to whether it will consider handing out another round of vouchers.
We ask that the South Australian Government, particularly the Treasury Department, considers funding the South Australian Tourism Commission to continue that program of voucher activity.
Christian Komenos, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
The winner of this year's Tunarama Ambassador Quest has finally been crowned. After months of campaigning, the 4 entrants have managed to raise thousands of dollars for local charities.
They say age is just a number. Well, that is certainly the case for Karen Fegett, who became the oldest Tunarama Ambassador Quest winner in its history. Karen accepting her award in a small ceremony at Line and Label on Friday night.
Yes, I never imagined having an opportunity to be in the Quest, and when Helping Hand introduced the senior section, I jumped at the opportunity to come on board with that.
This year's Quest seeing 4 entrants, working hard to raise money for their chosen charities over the last few months. In a year confined by the restrictions of COVID, the ladies still managing to raise a combined total of around $84,000.
And I think it's wonderful that those funds do stay local for the Eyre Peninsula and really benefit the local community, and Helping Hand's been really proud and happy to be part of the process this year.
Entrant Rachel Vella raising the highest amount of money, pulling in upwards of $31,000 for the Matthew Flinders Home Care Services. The judging process, however, looking beyond total funds raised.
The girls all got together last week on Thursday. We have an independent panel of judges. There was 4 judges who judged the girls. They had questions they had to answer and they were scored out of 10, and then the judges deliberate and choose the winner.
Despite this year's Tunarama Festival being cancelled, the new ambassador winner is hoping the community will see its return next year.
I mean, it's been devastating for the community and businesses at large that Tunarama wasn't able to go ahead this year. But I'm hoping to help as much as I can with the Tunarama committee to ensure that we have a fantastic 2023.
Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Eligible farmers in the Northern and York regions are invited to apply for the second round of the Carbon and Biodiversity Pilot. The program encourages landowners to plant native trees and shrubs, which are part of a biodiversity protocol developed by the Australian National University. More information can be found on the Landscape Board's website. Applications close on March 3rd. With Australia Day just around the corner, one Port Lincoln local is urging more people to come forward and get their citizenship. A long-time resident, now a proud Australian, officially receiving his citizenship last November.
Originally born in Punjab, India, Harry Singh has been managing the local Cowtex in Port Lincoln for 4 years. With new citizenships being awarded this Australia Day, Harry is encouraging people to practice mateship.
Here people look after each other. That's the main thing I have observed, that instead of just thinking about themselves, people think about each other. So we should adhere to that.
Mr Singh received his Australian citizenship from the Port Lincoln Council in a ceremony last year, but he isn't the only one, with families across the region doing the same.
Since 4 years we are doing this, but we got 4 other roadhouses in South Australia: Streaky Bay, Snowtown, Kimba, Clare, and we are the 5th ones.
The Cowtex here in Port Lincoln offering up much more than a tank of fuel. Harry serving up some of the best Indian cuisine in town, drawing in locals for years.
When we bought the business, we thought that how can we use our skills to increase our business, and our best skill was cooking. So we thought that better why not serve food instead of chocolates, chips, drinks.
Harry, now a full-fledged Aussie, excited to start his own generation.
It's the beginning of my generation now, and I am fully indebted to Australia, that such a beautiful country, such a good life, far more better than where we used to be.
Henry Millick, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. We'll have more of those wild weather details with Alex Sykes. See you soon with the forecast. Welcome back. We've heard of some of those pretty wild conditions across the Spencer Gulf. Time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather with Alex Sykes.
Thanks, Ruby, and that's right, we certainly have. There are a few weather warnings around which are associated with that wild weather. That includes a flood watch for the mid-north, Flinders Ranges, parts of the peninsula and parts of the north and east pastoral districts, while a severe weather warning for thunderstorms is also current for parts of the Gulf region. A look at today's temperatures now. At 3 p.m, Port Augusta was 30, Port Lincoln was 26 and Woodna was 29 degrees. While it was humid and had a shower or two, 28, Broken Hill had a shower or two and a possible storm, 29. Port Pirie and Adelaide were both 31. Kadina and Cleve were 27. Clare had showers and were 26. Cooper Pedy was partly cloudy and 32. Taking a look at the satellite image now, thick cloud is streaming over eastern South Australia as humid northeast winds feeds a slow-moving trough, bringing heavy rain, storms, leading to flooding, heaviest in the far northeast and around the York Peninsula and Kangaroo Island. Clearer further west in more stable westerly winds. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Variable winds 10 knots, seas 1 to 1.5 metres and south to southwesterly swell below 1 metre. Port Lincoln partly cloudy and set to reach 26 degrees tomorrow. Cleve will have a possible shower with 27. Woodna also set to reach 27 degrees. Humid conditions in the upper Spencer Gulf, Whale and Kadina, possible shower, both set to reach a high of 28 degrees. Port Augusta will get to 30. Port Pirie humid with a possible shower and 31. Clare will have a shower or two with 27, and Broken Hill is set to reach 30 degrees. Taking a look further through the week now, humid across parts of the region on Wednesday. Port Augusta to top 35, possible shower in Woodner with 30 degrees. Whyalla and Kadina also 30. Port Lincoln will have a shower or two with 26. Partly cloudy conditions forecast on Thursday. Broken Hill set to reach 35, 27 degrees in Whyalla and Woodner. Cooper Pedy will have a high of 36. Port Augusta and Port Pirie both 30 degrees. Similar conditions on Friday. Port Augusta, Woodner and Kadina all to reach 26. Port Pirie 27. Broken Hill will have a shower or two with 33. Port Lincoln will be cloudy and 25 degrees. I hope everyone stays safe and away from floodwaters, and that's all the weather from me for tonight. See you soon with an update. It's back to you, Ruby.
Wonderful. Thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Monday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates later. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.